Running fans, jumping fans, throwing fans, all around athletics fans. Welcome to Talking in Ovals. How's everybody doing out there on this Monday, August 11th, 2025, episode number 153? And for those of you noticing, I have no Dave. Hyatt is not here today. He won't be joining us. He's having some fun with his family, and that is always okay to take some time off, especially from a podcast that we just do for a good time. So Hyatt's going to be here with me again next week. So he's always around, but not this week. We're going to be having a good time on our lonesome with our guests. But before we jump to that, we appreciate wherever you are watching from, whether it's over there on Facebook, X, Twitch, YouTube, Kick. Thank you very much. Please give a like, share, follow, subscribe, all that good stuff. If you're listening to this later via podcast form, make sure you give us a 5-star rating. It's the only thing allowed, because even though Dave might not be here, if you don't get 5 stars, he'll come find you. I'll just send him out there. He goes and he does these things. So last week, we had a good time. We had on Travis Mahoney, performance coach. He's an influencer over in the running space and very good one. Also a pro steeplechaser that has had a longevity to his career that was so much fun. So absolutely go back, give it a listen. It was a really good time talking to Travis. He's obviously a New Jersey great, so connects with me and Hyatt very much. So really go back and give that a listen. But this week, I'm excited because it is always exciting when I can bring on my fellow running Red Foxes. It's something that I sure as hell don't do enough, because I have like a whole well of resources of some fantastic runners, but we're going to have more on. Don't worry, Red Foxes, if you're out there watching, I'm coming after you. But let's bring him in. I'm pumped to have him on. He is Justin Harris. He's a performance coach, former pro triathlete, and like I said, more important, a running Red Fox. What's up, Joe?
Oh,
Yes, Fear the Foxes. How are you, man?
yeah, I'm good. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. I appreciate you coming on. Like I said, I've been actually absolutely terrible about having Red Foxes on. I've had you on, I've had Vess on, and Chuck. I think that's it. That's only out of so I have to get moving. We've had plenty of quality runners.
There's some more characters there for sure.
Oh my God, we have definitely, definitely a lot of characters, and maybe we'll touch on some stories that no one should ever hear about tonight. But so I want to jump right into it with you, because I think out of most of our guests, you have such an interesting career that you have had, just kind of in endurance and individual Olympic sports, overall outside of running, which is fantastic. So I first want to start off with my question to you that I ask to all of our guests. When did you get the spark to want to become a runner and just kind of dedicate yourself to running in the sport?
Yeah, that's a great question. And for me, it was quite a journey. I'm going to be honest. I grew up playing little league baseball, soccer. My dad is quintessential ADHD, cannot sit down. Athlete. I thought everyone's dad could throw footballs 45 yards with both hands and just drop it in the pocket, and hit both ways. Like he just, even waiting for, my sister get out of school, he would draw a box, and have a stick and a tennis ball. I mean, it was always something to make it happen. So it took me a long time. I love ball sports. I love team sports. I just was super competitive. And my dad eventually was like, hey, like you should try this running thing. I said, screw that. These guys run from 2 o'clock to 4 o'clock, like nonstop. Like I'm not about this life, and I had a few run-ins with soccer. I didn't make my middle school team and I was devastated. I'm like, I'm never trying out for another sport again.
Well, it's like, what was the phrase, especially from, because, I came from a more team athletic background too. And it was, okay, I'm not going to go run for fun. Right.
Yeah.
That was the thing. Don't go run for fun.
Yeah. The joke is like, like the proud moment once you become a runner is my sport is your sport's punishment. I'm like, I was like, get that off my t-shirt. Like, I hate this crap, like, because running's cool right now, which is like amazing to see. Like run clubs are massive. Tons of people are getting in to meet other people and like getting into fitness. There's a little bit the bro science and different stuff coming in, and it's like, the hype train of like training modalities. And it's like, dude, this cycle, if you understand cycles, like things come and they fall out of fashion and they come back. And really it's about like total training. So for me, the journey was like getting made fun of many years. And it was just, but I loved, like in a team sport, I could do the best I could and we could still lose. And I hate to lose. Like my mom says, my first play day at 5 years old, we were playing Candyland and I was trying to change the rules so I could win. And the kid was like, that's not how you play it. And I slammed my fist down and I knocked the pieces everywhere. She was peeking in and I was like, I win. I always win. So,
That's amazing.
it's like I'm the eldest and they're like, Justin will play until he wins and he'll try changing the rules. But I don't like cheating, but I love going mano a mano. And that's where running became that thing, is like, there's a team sport aspect of it, like cross country, particularly. It's freaking everyone's got to run the same course, same conditions, and it was just, I'm getting goosebumps because the purity of it was just like, you didn't know what strides were in, sophomore year. Like, you're like, I'm just following the upperclassmen. I wore socks in my spikes and my feet overheated. I'm like, I'm never doing that. I track mid-distance spikes for cross country. I was with a I knew nothing. My dad was a jock. I mean, he was like football,
But it's
baseball, and
also,
wrestling.
XC is also like that perfect blend. Like you said, it's a team aspect, but it's still ultimately individual, right? Like
Oh,
you
yeah,
need to do well as an individual in
yeah,
order to help your team. So
yeah,
it's a combination of both where I still have to succeed as an individual. I still need to care about succeeding as an
yeah,
individual, right? Like where I finish matters. So
yeah,
I want to win. I
yeah.
still want to win for me, but that win for me counts as points better.
You're doing your job,
You're
right?
doing your part
Yeah. Bill
exactly
Belichick
by
is
being
famous with
better.
that, right? Bill
Yeah,
Belichick, do your job, like play
exactly.
your role and we'll all do well. And if I'm the third man, I'm the fifth man, and I'll maybe talk about high school. I was fortunate to be coached by a great coach that ended up having a lot of success. And it was like the team kind of had this trajectory of like kind of coming up and like being underdogs within our league, we had Arlington in our league, which was like, they always were like state qualifiers. And we finally showed up by like sweeping top
Well, there's
5 at a dual
4,000
meet.
kids there.
Oh yeah. Massive school. It's like a mini
Where
college.
did you go to high school? And
I went
because
to
you're in,
John Jay East Fishkill.
okay, you were over in Jay.
When we won. So I don't know if it's class A or double A now, but whatever the biggest school is, we won states. We were third at Feds. We won 2 national titles indoor. They were 2-time All-American outdoors, and we had 13 distance runners.
And what people need to understand, because I'm in the area now, I went to Marist, kind of never left and stuff. John Jay and Arlington absolutely hate each other.
Oh
In the
yeah,
area, wherever you could think of your two big rival
yeah,
schools, that is
yeah.
John Jay in New York and Arlington in New York, where like, and John Jay is kind of like, if you ever see like a
It's
bigger
more
kid and a
blue
little kid that
collar.
just always fight, and the big kid always beats the hell out of the little kid, but every once in a while that little kid knocks that big kid on their
Yeah.
ass.
Oh
That
yeah.
is John Jay and Arlington in
Yeah.
terms of
Oh,
sports.
that was our error for sure. And it was like the changing of the guard. Like, literally, I had a friend I played travel soccer with. I was a soccer player and
Yep.
I was good friends with him. So at the first dual meet, like first meet, I'm like, hey, what's up, Jared? And like we both went back to our teams and both our captains were like, what the, who you don't talk to them. This is none of this like dapping up, like, hey, good comp, which I love now, like that aspect of
Yes
it,
and
right?
no.
Yeah.
Yes and no. Good luck's
Yeah.
fine, but not the friendly, like, oh, we're going to go on a run later. It's like,
Not
no,
before.
have a good
Not before.
race.
I'm preparing for
Let's get out of
battle.
here.
Afterwards, hey, we went mano a mano, phenomenal race,
Yeah, that's
dap
fine.
it up, whatever. But that error, like literally I got back and my captain, Chris McCluskey, a Marist grad,
Yep.
ripped me a
Yep.
new one. It was like, what are you doing? Or maybe it was Timmy Walker, whatever. It was like one of these things. And I'm like, well, he's still my friend. But like as soon as that gun goes off, like it's game over. So there was a lot of animosity and different stuff because they were like the perennial ones. And we were just trying to like, we knew we had a good team, but 13 guys on the team.
Everyone matters.
Hold on. Yeah, everyone matters, but listen to this. Out of 13 guys, 8 guys ran 202 or faster.
Wow.
We ran 743 and
Wow.
758 in the same meet. 2 relays broke 8. So you
Out of
talk
a,
about having a really good coach.
yeah.
Right. And so like trying to train us right and good guys who were like, we had a ton of fun. We got in a lot of trouble. We were throwing snowballs, skipping off, doing whatever. But when it came time to work out, it was like, the penultimate was absolutely utterly all out. and to like leave it on the table. And then if you sandbag that one and you beat the guys who really went for it on the penultimate second to last, and then you rip the last one, like you got ridiculed. So you had to
Yeah.
leave it out there. So basically, to get back to the question and answer it, it was like, for me, it was like when I really was like, okay, this is my jam, was my junior year when we had a lot of success. Like there was a guy from Suffering who was like a national champion in the 2 mile and stuff. And we were kind of friends with him. And I remember just like sitting in my bed and being like, I want nothing more than to say I'm a national champion.
Yeah.
And even my parents like doubted us. Like we went to nationals and we were underdog. I think we ran like 7:58 without our anchor leg who ran 1:53 in the open 8.
Wow.
And so we knew we weren't ranked high. We were always the underdogs. And this back in the day, like die stat message boards where, people, and some guy did some speed ranking and we're like, why aren't we in the top 5? And we just had animosity, and not like in a bad way. It was like
It
really
was a chip on
internalized.
your shoulder.
Absolutely. And so like I remember we would go to St. Anthony's Invite in
Yeah. Yeah.
Sunken Meadow. And I remember showing up our junior year and we did running camp and St. Anthony's was there. And our coach went up to the coach and said, hey, our home course is Bowdoin Federations. Why don't you come up? We'll do a tri meet with Arlington. You get to expose it. And the coach said to him, he told us the night before the race, he said, I just want to let you guys, and he wasn't one for stirring up drama. He was a very even keeled, he was a wrestler. And then he came into running later. So he's
Yeah.
very respectable and everything. And he's like, and he knew us, like we were like chomping at the bit. Like we had ego with a sense of humbleness. Like it's just like, let the legs do the talking. And
Yep.
for sure, he told us that coach said, do you know who we are? We're St. Anthony's. We don't just run against anyone. And at the time, they had Charlie Million, who went to
Yeah.
Georgetown,
Yep.
and he ran like 15 something at boat, like unreal. But funny
Expensive.
enough, Sean Hopkins, who's a year older than me, who went to Marist, in my recruiting visit, I found out the truth because they didn't know who we are. And we show up and we have 13 guys walk off the bus, and we go and you drive up. They have a 20-person freshman team. They have a sophomore team. They have a JV team. It was literally 50 guys, and they're all decked out in gear. We're in Umbro shorts with boxers. We were not wearing track shorts, in 2000 and 2002. Like, it's like, no, you were soccer players. You didn't wear those short shorts unless
Yep.
you're racing, right? But our coach told us that guy said, do you know who we are? And he literally was like, let your legs do the talking. Well, Cardiac Hill is a big hill. And at that point, we had one guy who would go out a little hard. I would go out a little slow, and we'd equal out. And it was at the 2-mile mark. And we were all there together. Our spread, I think we went 1702 to 1710.
That's insane.
Yeah. So Charlie won and he whooped our butt, but we put 5 in front of their 2. And the coach came up and shook every one of our hands. And he apologized. Or no, our coach told us afterwards. Yeah, he told us afterwards. But anyway, he shook our hands, and our coach said, by the way, this is what happened. I'm like, why didn't you tell us beforehand? And I met Hopkins on a recruiting visit who went to St. Anthony's, and he was number 2 guy. And he was like, the whole race, my coach is like, all 5 guys, are right there. And he's like, you guys were monsters. So to have 13 guys and have 8 guys run 202 or faster is unreal. We had spread from quarter to 2-mile, and we were just really well coached. But I didn't identify as a runner. I was like, if I got hurt, I was like, yeah, I can go ride my bike or play pickup basketball. Like I can do other things. I want to be there for my team, but I'm not a runner. These guys are nerds, like AP classes, like
they're playing D&D on the
oh
weekends.
my
And
God, I'm like, what are you guys doing? Meanwhile, like there was a pocket of us that were like, Jackass movie was like the TV show was in play, and we were doing dumb stuff.
CKY was
Yeah,
big.
we
And
loved that stuff. So we were getting in trouble a little bit, but when the gun went off, it was like, warm up time. It was like all business and whatever. For me in college, like I ended up getting a small scholarship at D1. I wanted to go far away, but Pete, the coach there ended up being the best fit. And my college coach knew him, and he's like, I really think you should go there.
And you talk about even keel, like you go from one even keel coach to another very even keel, blunt. And, we both had Pete. We both love Pete. And one of my favorite things about Pete is he's not going to sugarcoat your
No,
performance is.
no,
He's not going to destroy you and
no.
bring you down, but he's just going to be very honest. If you ran well, he's going to be like, good job. Like
Yeah,
that was
blunt.
solid. Let's get back to work. But if it was bad, he'd be like, you know, you're better. That was terrible. Like
Yeah,
and it helped. It works. It worked.
yeah, blunt optimist, I would say, because sometimes,
Yes.
yeah, I'd be like, some guys would be like, "I wanna run this," and be like, "Yeah," and I'm like, "They're not gonna run that time," like, and they'd be disappointed when they're not, and I would give them some crap for it. But it was honestly, it was like my every year, like, I partied a bit, I didn't do great academically. I was on academic probation for a
Yeah.
couple reasons, my own fault, and it just so I was like, "Look, I'm here." I use my running to get me into the best academic school I can. I don't even wanna say my SAT score. He told me the mark and I hit it like to this, like within one digit. And he's like, "Are you going to take it again?" I'm like, "You told me you'd get me in. I'm not taking it again. Like, I can't afford it." So for me, it took till my junior year. I got hurt with compressed discs in my low back, and
Ooh,
I ended
that's
up
bad. Ouch.
redshirting. Yeah, I had a great cross season, and then I didn't do indoor outdoor because I jumped on trampolines a bunch. I used to ride BMX. Like, I was more of a cyclist than anything.
Yeah.
And so I was like, all right, I'll just bike a lot. I studied abroad my senior year cross because I had to stay one extra semester.
Hmm.
And so I was like, I need to I redshirted indoor, outdoor, and then junior year, and then cross. I redshirted my senior year. I was studied abroad, and that's when it clicked for me. I was like, when people would get injured, they would get existential crisis, depressed. They want to come out of the room. I'm like, I'll just ride my bike, or I'll go like play pickup soccer or something. And
I
it
took
took me
advantage of the
like,
pool when I was hurt. I got to
oh
go and
man,
enjoy pool running, swimming, and
I qualified for junior nationals in the 10K doing 10 by 800 5 mile like workouts, and then I'd be in the pool the rest of the week. Like, I just did
absolutely.
whatever I could
Yeah.
to qualify for junior nationals. I was more like a 2 miler,
Yeah.
800 guy. It's not mile, I sucked at. But when it was taken away from me and I couldn't compete, that's when I realized, I'm like, you know what? I'm a runner. Like, I might be different than these guys. Like, I can throw a baseball and football. Like, I can hit a baseball. I can kick a soccer ball. Like, I just didn't identify with some of the like kind of gangly, uncoordinated runners that were just good at running. I was like a well-rounded athlete that could play anything. That's how I grew up. So running was this thing that I didn't like the mileage. I didn't like long runs. I thought they were so boring. I loved workouts and races. That's what I lived for. And my training showed that all the way through college. And Pete was really facilitating. I think you got a little harsher, Pete, because, and not just me, but I was like, Pete, like, I think you're too nice. Like, like,
Oh, he
yeah,
that he is does have that about him where he does try to. I think it's his way of motivation because he's trying to get you to aspire to hear, right? Where he has that sense of realism.
yeah,
But if you're telling him, say you're coming in as a 440 miler,
yeah,
and you tell Pete, listen, I want to get down to 420, he'll say, let's go 425 and let's aim
yeah,
for that. He's
yeah,
not going to say, hey, 440 to
yeah,
425 is a
yeah, yeah,
massive jump in the mile. You're
exactly.
probably not getting
Yeah.
there, but he'll adjust it and go, let's get it a little more realistic and give you something to aim for. So,
But at
you
least
know,
healthy. It's healthy. Like, in
it
the
is
sense, it's like
100%.
there's so many coaches, like high school, college. I mean, we're seeing it in youth baseball, travel baseball, AAU, where it's like it's all about
Basketball too.
performance.
Yeah.
And Pete, like, to have a coach like both in my father, coached me when I was a kid. He didn't really, like, it was soccer. He's like, I can't believe my two sons are national champions in track, and you guys were soccer players, because he was baseball, football, wrestling, right?
Yeah.
But he
Yeah.
was always super supportive and like facilitating. My college coach,
Yeah.
Steve Perks, facilitator. And like, if you disappointed him, he would let you know, but in a like empowering, like, hey, you're better than this, right? And Pete was
Yeah.
very
Yeah.
similar. And as a coach, coaching people, like, I've coached people as young as like 10 years old, like, like, hey, can you help my kid with this or that? To, I have a gentleman who's 69 years old, right?
Mhm.
And I've worked with Olympians and Olympic medalists, and I coached Division III, and I, ran, like, I have like this, kinda,
Ridiculous range.
well, it's a
Insane
lot of
range.
range, and we'll get to that
Yeah.
when we talk
Yeah.
coaching,
Yeah.
but it's like the range I have as a person, is like athletically, it's like I like doing a lot of things,
Yep.
but Pete was always like facilitating, and he was very supportive. So like when I went abroad, like I couldn't run, like I had to change my running stride. Like, I was a heel striker and I had to change forefoot.
Mhm.
They wanted to do like back surgery. I'm like, no, I'm just going to take a step away
Yeah.
and like rebuild my body up. And I went from 3 times a week, I'd run 1 minute on the beach in Alicante, Spain. Then it was 3 minutes, then 5 minutes. And when I got back to school, like while I was out there, I just had to get away from it. And the guys honestly were not, they were partying a lot and not racing tough. Like they were like looking at results from previous races and kind of deciding like, oh, like we're not that good. And I sent this long email of like, remember when you were in middle school or high school where you didn't know what striders were, you didn't know what threshold repeats were, like you didn't
Never
know
ran a fartlek, never did an
crap. You
accelerator. Yeah,
just
none of that was
chased the
real. Didn't
guys or
matter.
the girls. You just you didn't know you were. And my thing was like, you need to go back to being ignorant. You can
Yeah.
no longer be naive because you know what's going on, but you almost have to be ignorant, and you can't decide the race before it goes off. Like this is why, like we talk in sports, hey, X team should win, and they don't. Like it doesn't
And
happen
what's
all the
crazy too, because you're talking early 2000s where, yeah, we had the internet, but we were looking at some timing sites, maybe, right? Like it
No, not
wasn't
even. It
at,
was like results, like, friends would send pictures, like, on Facebook or something. It was,
yeah.
like, really archaic.
So we didn't have the ability where now, like, I think that's
Keepers.
a good way to look at it
Yeah.
because now with Strava and FlowTrack and all this place, I feel like so many kids are super neurotic about looking and it is crazy. And I think you touch on a good thing. Like, don't be naive. You know that this is going on,
Yep.
but kind of shut your brain down and be ignorant to it. Don't look at a kid and go, I know him. He ran XYZ. Just be like, he's another competitor on the track. I have my goal. I need to go get
Yeah.
mine.
Well, it's the difference between I used to talk with my college kids about this, and now I work with adults, and it's like, what's the difference between achievement versus fulfillment?
What is it?
Yeah. Achievement versus fulfillment. No, just like achievement, it's like, the next one. I need to get an A. I need to get an
Yeah.
A. I need to get
Yeah.
an A. And it's like, where are you going? Right. It's like you're trying to win every battle, but you don't understand the magnitude of the war. Right. Like fulfillment is like the process versus the outcome. Right. Like this is a journey. This is going to take a long time. And like once you understand that pace is influenced by so many factors: temperature, humidity, your hydration level, your nutrition level, the terrain
Your
you're running
sleep.
on, wind, sleep, so many factors. And it's like, I got to run X pace. Says who? Says who? Like I would be the slowest guy on runs. Like I would run with guys running 28 minutes. Like that's what I need because I hit the workout. And
Yeah.
guys would have crappy workouts and then bang the run the next day to prove it and make up for it. And I'll take you every day, race day. There's no way you're beating me because
Nothing
now
was
you beat
worse
race
on the
day. You left it out during the week.
Nothing was worse than that last mile on a long run for
Yeah.
college kids. That
Oh,
last
yeah.
mile
It
was a
gets
race
quiet.
every
It gets
time.
quiet. You hear
Uh-huh.
it's like talking, laughing in the beginning, then it's like a little short, and then it's silence.
See, and I'm the guy going,
It's game on.
"Stop it. Stop it. Don't do it. Stop. No." And then, like, it just happens. Like, it's an organic thing.
Sometimes you gotta do it, right?
Oh, yeah, you gotta
I
lay it
won't say
down.
what we call it, but it's like, it's kind of like ego, like who's got it today, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But
Oh,
Pete
yeah.
was really good with that, and I think like when we get to coaching, and different stuff, we'll talk about it. But for me, it was like a long journey, and even now, I'm 41. I race triathlon. Like I kind of like people are like, "Are you still racing?" You ask that too, and
Yeah,
the
yeah.
answer is like, if I'm excited for it. I don't want to do things like there's this expectation sometimes that just we got to all deal with. Like I'm never going to run 14:42 for 5K ever again, right?
No,
But I
no.
enjoy running. But it's like I'm trying to like joy sport with the season. So it was a long journey. It continues to be a journey. It evolves what I like when I get the bug. What do I like? But I've realized for me, I need to move in order to. That's how I authentically express myself. That's how I feel like me is to move and compete. Like something like I don't care if it's like mini golf with my wife. I'm not like so competitive that it's like I'm miserable. It's just like let's compete because I feel like you get to know someone that
Get
way,
the
like
juices
more
flowing.
intimately. Yeah, it's enjoyable, and I don't win a lot, and it's like it's all right. I like
You're
having
just
fun.
going at it.
Yeah, it took me a
See,
while. Yeah.
and and it's like the beauty of running and with you doing the try and everything like that, you can pick it up and put it down. There's nothing that
Mhm.
says that, people have, like, I saw the other day, like, the longest running streak by this coach ended in this many days. And I'm like, that's cool.
Pete
And
did
like,
15
Pete
years.
had, Pete had an
15
insane,
years.
yeah, yeah. Pete had a ridiculous
And he was
running
like, "It's
streak.
not healthy, like, don't do it," but he's like,
No.
"I'm just gonna see it." So, there's these things that we do, like, I'll say it's like there's a performance circle,
Hmm.
right? And then there's a health circle, And it's like, even when I was coaching college or high school, it's like, I'm not going to do things for performance at the expense of your physical, mental, or like spirit, whatever health, like you as a person. Like, this might do really well for you in a short term, but then you develop bad habits, and then you're going to have a really tough, like, you're like, some schools, you'll see at high school, team cranks out runners to college, and then they don't perform in college.
Yep.
And my coach was like, I'm setting you up to run better in college than you did here. And I did by miles. And a lot of us did. And some local schools and stuff, you just see the kids, like, they were running, I don't think any of us ran 60 miles a week in high school. I think we were like 45. Some ran 50, but he's like, I just did, like, you need somewhere to go to. And now kids are running 60, 80, and like, they
It's
might
a lot.
be at 16 to 18. And there's, like, your outliers that can handle it, but there's so many that just, like, like, mileage is like, I have to run a certain mileage. I have to run a certain pace. And it's like, to me, it's like missing the forest for the trees. And so that was something I kind of was like, that's what I didn't associate with. I'm like, I'm not obsessed with this thing. Like, let's pull back and, like, let's just go toe to toe. And
I think your like kind of pushback against being a quote unquote runner maybe helps you a little bit too, because you're not so caught up in that same space, right? Like I feel like if you're a runner coaching a runner and you identify with what they're doing, like
Mhm.
sometimes you get caught up in doing the same thing. And we've said it a bunch of times on this show. We've been blessed to have some amazing coaches
Yeah.
jump on the show, you included, and to a T, each and every single one of you basically in some way say, I want to put the individual I'm coaching as a person ahead of what they are trying to do and accomplish
Yeah.
in the sport.
Yeah.
And I feel like once you get to that point where, sometimes it takes a little bit to establish that relationship and that trust with the athlete,
Mhm.
that you're not there coaching them. And obviously, if you're paid to be a coach,
Yeah.
there's some achievement level you do want to have. That's part of it.
Yeah.
But once you get to that barrier of, I care about you and then I care about your results.
Yeah.
Once you can get there, the performances, whether they're good or bad, just become easier to weather together, right? Because I went back and I coached for 4 years under Pete over at Marist.
Yeah. Yeah. I
And
remember.
the relationships that I was able to build to this day, I've talked to basically all the athletes I
Mhm.
coached there.
Mhm.
And it was just watching them accomplish. And again, some of them, you have to crack a little bit harder and you got to work because you have to get there. And maybe they had a bad coaching experience in high school.
Yeah.
So now they're just there to work hard and they're trying to put their head down. And it's like, no,
Yeah.
I want to work with you.
Yeah.
I want you to trust me and I trust you because you're a grown man. You're a grown woman.
Yeah.
We're in college. We could do this together,
Yeah.
but you still got to give me some leeway to teach you.
Yeah.
So that relationship building and that I care about you as a human and then a runner, and it's a really wide gap.
Yeah.
Once you can get that to somebody, teaching and coaching them becomes so much easier.
Yeah. For sure. For sure.
So I want you to go a little bit down memory lane. You touched on one with, nationals with the 4x8 and stuff like
Mhm.
that. But talk about some of your favorite moments of, being in running, from, your high school days, middle school, and into college, and even go into the triathlete, because we've had a few Ironman athletes on here, and I put that in athletics. I feel like Ironman belongs in the whole entire athletics realm, because it includes anywhere from like a 5K to a marathon, right?
Yeah.
If you're going from the sprint tries
Yeah.
to,
Yeah.
and biking and swimming, they're all Olympic sports, so I include
Yeah.
that. So give us some of your favorite memories from basically middle school up until pro try.
Yeah. I would say some of the big, I mean, winning a national title, like in the 4x8, was a
That's
big
fun.
thing. Like, we were the
Yeah.
underdogs. It was the Armory. It was our home track. At that time, there were two nationals, Nike nationals in Maryland,
Hmm.
and the New Balance nationals um, in the Armory. And like, we
Yeah.
had to pick, we're like, where's the good field? And again, this is not like people declaring and like, let's just go the track we know and let's just go run the time we want. It ended up being the fastest time of the year. We ran 7:46.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and we all PR'd on the same day.
Nice.
So 1:58.2. I ran 1:59.2. I had to race off multiple times. I was the slowest. Like, there was three guys that were set, like Steady Freddy, Jeff Long. Then it was we had this guy move up from North Carolina, who ended up he was like a 4.8 guy for real. And then we had a guy who was like 4 to a mile, who ended up running at Penn State and
Nice.
ran 150 as a freshman. And
Whew.
Yeah, he went to junior nationals in 800. Tim Walker ran 416, 153. So anyway, 158 too. But there was 3 of us guys that were fighting for the last point, and I was the only underclassman. Everyone else was seniors. So that year we had 11 All-Americans in our high school. 9 of them were for track, and I was the only one that was an underclassman. And I remember
That's
my coach
nuts.
coming up to talk to me, and he was like, "Look, we've raced off a couple times indoors. Like we did a 1,000-meter, and I beat this guy who ended up running really well in college. But I beat him a little bit tactics, like from cycling. Like we were coming up on a runner, and I kind of boxed him in with the lapper." And he was
Hey,
like,
you got to
"That's
be
not
smart.
fair." And I'm like, "Hey, in the 4x8 on the second leg, like you need to be able to move in packs and move around."
Oh
And I said,
yeah.
"That's a skill, and you didn't see it. It's not just straight up." Then we raced a 4x8, like that wasn't a race off, but he beat me by a tenth. And he's one of my, good, like this is water under the bridge. But I'm like, we weren't racing off, and he argued for that. And then we brought the other third guy who had, and finally it was like we drew legs out of the hat, and I got second leg. So we had one guy lead off, and I was around some people, but I ran too flat to get on the relay. And the other guys ran like 206 and 212. And that was the concern of the guys on the relay, was like, we need someone consistent. These guys can run 158 or 212 under pressure, and we don't know what it's going to be. So that was an amazing memory. And my dad is super supportive. And I remember my dad's like, "What's the goal?" And I was like, "Our goal is to win." And he's like, "Do you think you're like shooting a little high?" Like, "Dad, of all the people to doubt us." And we went out there and we all PR'd on the same day, 158.2, 159.2. I PR'd by 8 tenths. And then the other guy ran 155. And then the other guy ran 153.1.
That'll do it.
Close race, South Shore, CBA, like all of us ran the top. Like we ran the 7th fastest time in high school history at the time, broke an 35-year Armory record. Those guys from boys and girls on a wood track ran like 750, like 748 or something from like,
Wild how fast they were able to go.
it's crazy. And we were on a bank track with Mondo, and it was not even super shoes yet. I always wonder now, like what I could run in these shoes, like fit then.
Those were the non-forgiving spikes that when you bought them, you had to do this for like kids
Dude, I
don't
had the
realize
Puma
how much you had to
Hombres that
bend
were
them.
5.3 ounces, full spike plate. Those things were bricks, but no cushioning, like nothing. I would
And you
do
went from your trainers being like
for
20
that. You didn't do
pounds.
workouts in them.
No,
You
no,
did
you
no
didn't do workout.
workouts in them.
I did workouts and spikes for the first time in college. I
Yeah, we
didn't do it in high
barely
school. My
touched
high
it.
school wasn't that way. And like when I got to Marist, like I was hurt going in. I had surgery going in. And I trained in indoor to try and get ready, had to get surgery again. But
Yep,
then outdoors when I first really started training, and I remember getting there
yep,
and I didn't even bring my spikes. I was in my trainers and everyone's spiking up. I'm like, what are we doing? They're like, it's a workout. I'm like, what do you
yeah,
mean? Like, what are we doing here? Like, I thought we were training trainers. We raced in
yeah.
spikes. And they're like, no, idiot, bring your
Yeah,
spikes
you
next
got
time. I'm
that a
like,
lot
all
at
right.
Marist. There's a lot of room because you got a lot of raw people. So I hear it, but it was just a different time, and
Yeah,
the
yeah,
coaches, like I had great coaching, but it was just different. So to go
absolutely.
and win that, and to be able to, like, my dad look down at me and be like, "You effing did it," and getting sized up for rings. It was like so surreal.
That's so
The next
fun.
proudest moment, honestly, is my brother winning DMR 2 years later. Like
That's
knowing what I went through, like that was like really special to see. Qualifying for junior nationals, Pete recruited me. He was like, "You're young enough. You're young for your, class. So like, you're gonna be under 20 at the end of your freshman year. So like, the 10K is the best thing." And here I am, national champion 4x8. I'd run 934, like 856 3K,
yeah, yeah.
934 2 mile. I was not a miler, 237 for the 1,000. I was like,
Well, now,
10K.
quick question. Was it just tactics for the mile that you didn't jive with? Because be
Oh,
able to run a fast 8
yeah.
and a 159 should translate to like a
Oh, I
420.
ran 442 for the mile.
That is surprising because that should translate right
I
around
came
420 ish,
back and it's,
425.
I've run 945 in the 2 mile going out in 5 flat as like a plan, and came
Yeah.
back 445. But my PR in the mile was 442. So it takes me a little while to get going. I'm more like a diesel engine, even the 8. So my PR in the 8 is 157 at Marist. We set like I came in, I'm like, our school record's 758. Like I ran 750 46 indoors. We're breaking this record. By my sophomore year, 3 guys ran 155.3 to the 10th. and I ran 157 on leadoff, and I was like toast at that point. And like, you got to go out fast. I went 28, 30, 30, 30. Like, like no, like, and when I ran 152, I ran 59 point. Like, I just like, I can't get out fast because I didn't have
Okay.
the wheels, but I could hang on. And that's like
Once
when
you got into a rhythm, you were in a rhythm. Like, you were just
yeah,
there.
it was the competitive point, but I just didn't have
Yeah,
the
yeah.
wheels, right? And so the 10K was like, I remember Pete was like, that's how a big reason why I went to Marist, because he was like, I think you could go junior nationals. I wanted accolades, man. I wanted big stuff. Like, I emailed University of Colorado Boulder. I was not good enough.
Where
You
was
know,
Junior Nats that year? Because it moves around a little
it
bit.
was
Where was it that year?
Stanford, right? And
Nice, that's
so,
fun.
yeah, so I had to run sub 32:45 for the 10K, and I was injured. My dad was in
Mhm.
the hospital, not doing well. It was like
Mm.
all these things, and academically, I wasn't doing well. And it was just a lot of stuff on me. And that was an amazing thing to qualify. I ran 32:32. I couldn't walk for a week, and I ran that race in April at Princeton Sam Howell Invite, like beginning of April. And then I raced the steeple at Max in May. I didn't run. I was like, I want to quit. I want to quit. Every season of track, I'm like, I want to quit. I was like, I'm just like, I'm not,
Well,
whatever.
people don't realize
Very
how
good.
much pounding that is on a track for
Oh my God.
6.2 miles. Like,
But it's also mentally, it's like you have to just be a grinder. And I'm
yeah,
more of
yeah.
that now, but it was really challenging. So that was an amazing moment to go fly with Pete. Like, I think that was the first time I was in a plane that I remember. It was amazing, and to spend time with Pete's like one of my like very good friends. Like, he always mentored me, and I would always go into his office, and I like, if we qualified my freshman year, I went to IC4As. I didn't qualify, but I just wanted to be with the guys and like support them. So that was a really great memory.
Pete has a ton of sons and daughters because he's like a
Oh yeah.
father to
Yeah.
so many
Yeah,
people.
and he's amazing. So
Yeah,
that
yeah.
qualifying for junior nationals was not a good memory because he didn't really train us, and he didn't want us like be exhausted for cross. So I got lapped 3 times, and I got the pity clap at the end, like, let's bring in Justin Harris from Marist. I got beat by high school kids. Pete's like, you're running like 6:30 pace out there. I was like, I just checked out. So other good memories. Yeah, breaking the 4x8 record at Marist with the guys, winning a conference title in the steeple when I was the underdog.
Also a former record holder at the school for the steeple as
Yeah,
well.
steeple. Yeah, just seeing some records like go, like being a part of that process, especially the steeple, like Greg Salamone, who's no longer with us, like
Yeah, rest in peace,
knowing
Greg.
the steeple's event where like so many guys think they're fast 3K runners and they're like, oh, I can run that time. It's easy. But you really have to be like 1500 fast and 10K strong and then athletic to get over the hurdles and time them. And that's like, and then you got to be tough. It hurts. So that was, yeah, running. I made the collegiate heat, the second heat, not the fast heat. And I finished 4th in that. I beat guys from Michigan, Indiana.
That's
Like, and
incredible.
the guys, because Penn is like only the fast distance runners.
Yeah.
And like the guys going, I get goosebumps. Like the guys are going nuts on the corner, like, come on. And I actually hurdled the last barrier because the previous year I got passed by someone. Because Penn, it's like, it's not international distance. It's like at the end of the turn. And so like you come off and you have like 30
Franklin's such like a
meters.
weird
Yeah,
shaped
it's not
track.
a
It
good
really
one,
is.
but like I remember it's like you just got to get over it. Other good memories. Yeah, I mean, doing my first Ironman, that was like a wave of one and only, but that was a wave of emotion. I was a professional, drove out to Ohio. A lot of people doubted me, like you can't hit that time that you hit. And it was just like putting the pieces together. And like in an Ironman, it's long enough where you have like highs and you have lows and you're just like romping through it. So like I was pretty emotional when I crossed the line. And yeah, it was just
I mean,
running
it's as
fun.
challenging physical as it is mental, right? Because how many
Oh,
times do you say to yourself, I'm done, I'm toast, I don't want to do this anymore?
yeah. Yeah.
You know?
Honestly, it's more of a patience, like waiting game. Like you can't, like a 5K, it's like, get in there, hang on for dear life and kick.
Yeah. Yeah.
Don't screw it up the last 1200 meters when you're hanging on for dear life. An
Exactly.
Ironman is you're just like, do I, it's such a fine line of like, am I going to eat crap later or not? So, but it was like, I never thought I'd be an Ironman, like winning SOS, which is like a local race. That's like iconic. Being a local, I was like, winning that. I say I won it. I did it once. I won it and done. So 1-1 and done. It leaves a legacy, right? Like look,
Absolutely.
it's really important to me, but it's not to like, it's like now that I'm 41 and looking back on some of these things, it's like I decided when I finally recognized when you asked the first question, uh, when did you figure it out? With running, like when you get jazzed for it. And what I realized was like I'd rather been a has been than a never was.
100%.
And that took me a while because everyone's like, you can run so much fast, like I would say I'd run a time and they would doubt me and I'd run it within a tenth, and it took me a while to figure out. But yeah, a lot of good running memories. Honestly, the best memories are like long runs in the woods with guys, like
It's such a good time
shooting the
sometimes when you're
shit.
just out there just,
Yeah.
yeah, cruising. And
Yeah.
the thing is too, it's like, people don't understand people that dislike running or haven't really been able to get into it. You can run really fast and still have a good time and still talk. When you're in great shape and you're going and you're doing a run, and it's like, it's not necessarily a training run because you're doing some hard strides, that
Yeah.
sucks, right? But it's like,
No.
if you're just going at a good clip and you're just with the group of guys, you don't feel it. You can be on an 8-mile run and you just don't
You
feel it.
float.
You
Yeah.
float and you're going, you're just talking. And then again, that last mile, everyone stops talking and it's like, who can break 5? And it's
Yeah.
tedious. But
Yeah. Yeah. Mike Tyson is like on Joe Rogan or something like that. And he's like, what was it? He's like, there was nothing like running. Like when you're in good shape and you're running, like there's
yeah, yeah.
nothing better than that.
And
And there's
I
not.
always challenge people too because I had a friend who was he played football
Yeah.
and he was in decent shape, but he wasn't super into football. He just played it.
Yeah.
And I played football my freshman year with him because I liked football better than running. And I was good freshman year, so they convinced me to run XC.
Yeah.
Did it sophomore year, got hurt, whatever.
Yeah.
Went back junior year, and he's like, "Hey, he played football sophomore year. He's like, I'm gonna come run cross country. I think I could do it." And I'm like,
Yeah.
"You sure?" And he's like, "Yeah, yeah." He's like, "What's a decent time?" I'm like, "Break 20 in high school, and you're above average of
Yeah.
most people."
Yeah.
And he's like, "All right, that's the goal." He comes out and does like summer training with us, and he
Yeah.
goes, I don't know how you guys do any of this. I'm like, you're probably in 23-minute shape. He's like, no way.
Yeah.
He goes out, he runs like a 22 and change, and he goes, my mind is blown right
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
He ended up running like 1919
Yeah.
as a good sized
Yeah.
guy, too. He wasn't small. He's like a linebacker.
Oh, dude, we had a state
1919.
wrestler, a guy
Yeah.
who
Yeah.
finished second in the state at 165. He would run with ankle weights and 5-pound
Ooh,
dumbbells like this on easy runs. And he ran like 18:30, like,
yeah.
like
And he just said newfound respect. He's like, I've never been in as good a shape
yeah,
as XC shape. He's like, he's like, and he worked out and everything. He's like, I've been muscular. He's like, cross country
yeah.
shape. There was no
I think the
comparison.
2 hardest sports are cross country running and wrestling. There's no
Yeah,
no
probably.
hiding.
The thing is too, he always would see me like sophomore year when I did XC.
Yeah.
I would go to morning practice and then I'd come back and we'd like go do something at the park. We'd play like tennis, like go run around, play basketball.
Mhm.
And like after like junior year, he's like, how do you do that? And I'm like, I don't know. That doesn't count as working out to me. That's
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah.
Tennis, basketball after playing
Yeah.
touch football. It's like, that's fun. The working out's in the morning when
Oh,
I'm
yeah,
going
yeah.
to do my
At Marist, we would
mileage.
run and then we'd play intramural soccer at
Which
10
I'm the
PM.
reason why Pete barred us from it
Yeah,
because
yeah.
I
He
got
would
someone.
drive by to, like, going home from his Poughkeepsie Journal job, and he would see us out there, and we got reamed out. But we beat the men's Marist soccer team.
Really?
Yeah, it was like 8 it was like 6 of their guys, like, from the D1 team,
Yeah.
and we beat them because it was just like, send the ball, and we're just running down, and it won't work the first half, but by the second half, they were just done chasing us. So, anyway, a lot of good memories with
A
that.
ton
So,
of memories.
yeah,
All
yeah.
right. I want to jump into some coaching here because as you've alluded to, you have just a bevy of experience just coaching at basically every distance on the track, cross country, men and women, and then even touching into the, triathlons, whether it's sprint to Ironman. And we're going to talk later about some other non-running, biking, and swimming sports, but we'll wait on that. So how do you have to adjust
Mm,
when you're talking to a 60-meter runner who has God-given sprint talent and it's your job just to tweak, right? Because that's kind of where they are. Tweak and teach them how to work hard.
mhm.
That's usually the sprinters, right? As opposed to the distance runners where it's like maybe some of them it's teaching them how to work less because they're going to hurt themselves.
Mm.
And where is the mindset of going into coaching all these different levels? And
Yeah.
does it change that much?
Yeah, no, I've coached every single track event and and not just like they need help there. Like it was my responsibility. Like I coached cross country and track high school, then Division 3 for 3.5 years. I was assistant for cross country while I was the head coach for the track team. So I coached short sprints, long sprints, hurdles, jumps, throws, multis. And it was like I had 40 kids, 2 genders, and it was like, so it comes into this thing is like my background's in special education, right? And
Yeah,
so it's
yeah.
like, can you create systems that like work, right? And so for me, it was like early on in my coaching, like so I went for education because I thought that's the only way you can coach is be a teacher, because it was modeled for me. I ended up finding out like I don't have to teach in high school, like I can coach college and just
Hmm.
full time, which is still education and teaching, right? For sure. And
Yes,
even
yes.
today, coaching adults, it's like I remember reading a research, and we'll get into the bobsled stuff, but I remember finding the PhD of this guy I wanted to shadow, and he was like developing Olympic talent, like coaches that can coach at, like we're not developing as US like enough good coaches to coach at that level. And he basically figured out four types of coaches. I don't remember them, but one was like super science, one was like super psychology, and one was like super education, and then I forget what the other one is, but it was like there's different types of people. So I just recognize my strength is teaching and educating. And I'm gonna frankly say is being stubborn enough to like stick to a plan to see it out, right? Like I've been challenged multiple times, like, I don't know if this is working right now. I'm like, I need to see it through, especially early in my career. So
Yeah.
I knew I wanted to be a coach from when I was young, like teach or be around it. And so when we're working with different types of athletes, to me, it's like, I saw early on, I was like, okay, I got to coach 800-meter runner like this. And I got to coach a 10K runner like this. And I got to coach, the 400, 800 kid. Like, and it became like, it's like too much shifting. And if a kid moves from event to event, it becomes like there's no system. It's like it's too silo.
Kind of the Jack Daniel style where every single event was a different approach from that
Yeah,
book.
well, they have different qualities, right?
Yes,
And
yes.
so to me, it's like, so for me, like the saying, it's like there's few principles but many methods.
Mhm.
I was actually just talking to a kid. He's running marathons now, but I coached him. He was an All American in the decathlon.
Very
Are
nice.
you originally from Connecticut?
No, I'm a Jersey boy.
Oh, Jersey boy. Okay, sorry. Didn't mean to offend you.
No, it's listen, it's all right. I'm now in New York, so nobody can offend me.
Yeah, exactly. But he was like from a small school. Anyway, I won't get into his stuff, but it was like reflecting on him. Now he's running marathons and he's like, what's it like? I'm like, it's no different than what we did there. And
Yeah,
early on,
yeah.
I try to find similarities more than differences. Right. And so this really helped me when I was coaching. Like to me, it was like there was a short sprint workout, a long sprints workout, and kind of like a long sprinter middle distance workout. And to me, it was like, what quality? Like to me, I saw myself like Dr. Dre at the producer board, like, you are my instrument and I'm trying to get the right sound out of you. And there's EQ. And like some coaches just have, it's like volume, intensity, frequency. How often are we working out frequency? How much intensity? How hard? How much effort? And then volume. What's the total training load?
Yep.
What's for right? And to me, it's like I'm tweaking these things even in sprinting. So it's like, hey, just I think it's really good for like a example as a 400-meter runner who's more of a long sprinter, not like a 100 guy.
Mhm.
Yeah, right. And so it's like, okay, we're running the 400. Well, in the Northeast, it's cold. So we're not running,
Yep.
opening up, running 100 4x1 on the first week. It's
Nope.
45 degrees and windy. So those athletes, I say, we're going to run the 8. And it is a little bit of a faux pas because it gets into the idea of like they're running slow. But it was like I'm trying to work on qualities like that last 50 meters because it's windy. They got to get gritty and tough, and they can't be afraid to hurt. And the 8 teaches you that, right?
Yep.
And so then the next week, it's usually a little bit warmer. It's like 1 week difference. It gets warm. And then we'd go 4x1, 1, 2 for those athletes. So it was a speed week, right? And then we'd get to the 400. So it's like Goldilocksing it. So
Is
their
there value
workouts
to
the same.
having the
What?
600? Is there value to having the 600 available at a lot of meets? Because New York runs a good amount of the 6, right? Because I'm Jersey
Indoor, but we
indoor,
didn't
so
have indoor track where I coached in college. So,
okay.
so it wasn't presented to us. So it was more like just outdoor.
Gotcha,
But the
gotcha.
thing was, is I would write a short sprint workout, long sprint workout, and then kind of a mid distance workout. And I'd work with the middle distance coach. And
Mhm.
like, we'd be like, hey, look, I need my 400, like they need to do some volume.
Yep.
And for them, it's slower, but they need to kind of grind it out. It's still
Yeah.
fast. But for his 8-15 kids, that was like a
Speed.
speed day. And
Yeah.
they would all get together. So it was a little bit easier for them for the first few reps, but then the long sprinters would get grinded out a little bit. And then the short sprint, the 1,500 kids were like, I can't keep up, but then they would catch up. So it was like, it also made the team bond together, right?
Creates competition too
And
there.
so it's like, hey, we get a few races, and I'm like, look, I think like our acceleration's not good. Like you need to get to short sprints. We're doing block starts, and so I had the workouts, and it was just more like fine tuning, pushing the kids to the right workouts and
Yep.
having those conversations. So to me, then you throw in hurdles, like they're a hurdler running open, and then they're a jumper, like hot,
Yep.
like
Yep.
hurdles and long jump mesh. The driving in off the board is the same, very similar. I forget her name, Brianna something, that was like long jump national champ and also 100 hurdles, like very good. Like it complements each other, right? So
Yep.
it's the biggest thing was trying to find the commonalities between them all. Even field events, like to keep the team together, we would do continuous, like instead of just doing striders, we would do 4x1, like 5-person on a relay, so continuous. So they had to like know what zone, where, inside, outside. Even my throwers, and even like some of my like 800 kids, like they had to know how to do, like we would just do standing handoffs. They all had to learn these skills, and then we would have this like huffy puffy, extensive tempo session
Hmm.
with everyone for like 30 minutes. And then it was like, go do event work. And we'd get short approach, high reps,
Yeah.
lighter weights, more throws. And it was just like, so it's trying to figure out what you're dialing in and like make it like, so kids can come across events and they're all getting the same kind of stimulus,
Hmm.
but it's what they need. So that's the only way I've been able to do it. Like, you know,
Very meticulous.
yeah, it's just finding common themes, right? Like I'm
I
not a
feel like
very
you could write a book. I feel like you could write a book on like a little bit of a manual because like to someone and I found this with good coaches that are good and understand a lot, what you see as simple and not very deep,
Mhm.
someone's going to listen to what you just said and be like, I got to play that back a few times and write it down, right? Because you got into, very specific things and going into here and there. And, I speak track. So for me, someone who speaks track and has coached, I was, followed you. But I feel like your method in writing it down could help a novice coach, a young coach that maybe they're at the JUCO D3 level,
Yeah,
getting thrown into a program. Now they have full control. They don't have a ton of help because there's not a ton of funding. How am I now going to tweak this team? Something like what you just said would certainly help, right? Because that's very different than these massive programs who
yeah.
have a specific, short sprints
But
coach,
there's a
long
million
sprint
ways
coach.
to do it,
Yes,
right?
there
Like
is a ton
like
of
you could do Clyde Hart regular stuff, which was like
ways.
literally Clyde Hart right now to me was phenomenal 4.8 training.
Yeah, yeah,
That's like
100%.
Jeremy Warner ran really fast in the 800.
I'd
If
say.
people don't remember that when it was
Yeah.
after that, right? And they had stamina. Like the workouts I would look at, like over distance, they would do like 200s. They would start at 16 reps and descend, 16 at 36. And they would do continuous relays. I didn't do it that way because I never had enough kids, but a little bit like we have to, every time we're doing 4x4 handoffs, like just like I'm trying to teach as many skills. So there's part whole, right?
Yep.
Like teach the part, but then like put it in practice under pressure. Like I never in my 10 years of coaching sprinters had a drop baton. Like
That's
not
amazing.
in practice, a ton. And kids would be like, ooh, push-ups. I'm like, stop. We're not making this a thing. I want us to push the limit. I
Yep.
want really tight handoffs and 4x1, like we're running up on each other because in a race, you're going to move that 1 second, like that millisecond
Fraction.
failure, and you're going all out because it's a race. So it'll be butter. I want you up on top of each other, 4x4. We practice them. We blind. And I would always like, don't do it blind. Don't do it blind. I'm like, it's fast and we'll practice it early on. But this idea of like Clyde Hart, right? You understand that. Like you learn that. Then
Yep.
Tony Holler, Feed the Cats, right? Like I've coached Clyde Hart. I produced a national champion in the 400. She ran 60.2 in high school, left running 53.89.
Yep.
She qualified in the 2, 4, and 8 for NCAAs in Division 3, missed 100 by 600ths of a second.
Which is
Who
wild.
has that range?
It's
But
crazy.
that's what we worked on. I want my
Yeah.
athletes to
Yeah.
range. Then the next year, we had an All-American decathlon. He was 3 points out of third place. I made a mistake in pole vault. We skipped the height, and I still regret it to this day. But he did phenomenal. We worked 4 years to end in 4:35 in the 1500. He ran 4:32.
Wow.
He in the big race, his senior year, last race, like we just, what does it take to win? And you reverse engineer. But I coached this team on Clyde Hart and other stuff, like not fully. But then I had a team that was less 400 kids, and they were more like short sprinters. And so I shifted. It took me a couple of years, and then I shifted to like feed the cats, short and sweet, get them out, full power. And it's just like you start coaching different ways. I think too much people get too dogmatic about the style, like this is the only thing I learn. And I always push like, hey, let me learn something else and then
Of course.
fill it in middle distance run, distance running. You have Jack Daniels, you have Arthur Lydiard, which I'm a huge fan of.
Arthur Lydiard's awesome.
Igloy, which was, he would just say 2x200 smooth, 4x100 fast. Like he would just watch. I think that
we had
that
Travis Mahoney on last
guy?
week. We had Travis Mahoney. He talks about Ben Thomas over out there. Ben Thomas is fantastic in his training methods
but
too.
there's iconic coaches, Tom Tellez, Dan Paff, Stu McMillan now, like Ron Raynard, like
Dalton Ritzenheim and everything he's doing over there.
Yeah, getting shit done. So excuse me, but
that's okay.
There's a lot of different. That's the thing is like we grew up on Jack Daniels, but it was like you need to explore other things. And for me, it was like to try to do it myself. And Pete, what college coach lets kids pick the mileage they're running or like, hey, I want to do this workout. Like my freshman year, I'm like, Pete, I'm sick of quarter repeats and 1,000 repeats. Like this is so boring, which is ironic because I do a lot of it now. I was like, can we do something hard? And he'd be like, what do you want to do? I'm a freshman, but he knew my coach. And I'd be like, can we do 2x2 mile threshold? And he's like, sounds great. And everyone would look at me and elbow, like they were so mad at me, but I had backing because I read Jack Daniels. My coach talked to me about this, right? Like the AAU championships.
I love that. I never participated, but God, that was such a great workout.
I never finished it, but it was me and the 4 guys in my class. There was 4 of us. I'm like, we need some like before spring break.
It got so big. It's such a fun event.
10 minutes rest. Like I did
try and break 10 twice.
I bailed, and I'm ashamed of it. Like I created the work, co-created. I never finished it,
and it became. You know what sucks is that kind of went away with the indoor track going away.
Yeah,
like that was.
Yeah.
I hope with the new track, I hope they bring it back. I really do.
But it wasn't a good workout, and it wrecked guys. It
was fun. It was a team building thing. It really was.
It was like everyone would come out. The women would come out. Then I think the women tried it. It was just amazing. But this is back to the thing.
Everyone wore their old uniforms. Like that was the fun part. You brought your high school uniforms out and you just raced in your high school uniform. It was awesome.
The Dolphin, the Dolphin stick to you, sweaty. Like
it was so good. Yeah.
Like, whatever. But the thing is any industry, like people have been there long enough, like they've done things probably a bunch of different ways. Like
100%.
distance running right now, right? Do you train on pace? Do you train on heart rate or do you train on effort? If you only train on effort, you're probably running too hard a lot of the times. If you only train on heart rate when it's hot out or whatever, you're probably running easy too much. If you run on pace, you're probably running too hard, on the terrain. So it's like the mix of those 3. It's like really you want effort to be the guide, and then pace and power help calibrate, or pace and heart rate help calibrate you in.
Yeah.
Right. And this is like, to me, it's like, it depends, right? Like it depends. So the biggest thing in coaching and different people, just to, round back to it and answer it simply, is find, like a system, create a system that works and that people can be like flexible through. And I think you're going to get the best out of a lot of people. That's not my really, like, I wanted to coach. I joke, if like someone said like coach a mouse to play basketball, I would try. Like I would take on the challenge.
Do it, little baby.
I've had friends where like, come coach swimming. I'm like, I don't know how to coach swimming. And like I coached on deck and it gave me a lot of confidence to the bobsled stuff. Like, I'm like, I don't belong here. Like, but and people were like, you don't belong here. And I figured it out. So I think that resiliency and stubbornness, like
it helps.
Well, I didn't want someone to come to me and I could not help them.
And I think one of the things I like too is like the way you set up your system, the way it sounds like you were turning a bunch of specialists into overall athletes, right? Like you weren't allowing them to just sit there and say, I'm just a 100-meter runner. I'm just a 200-meter runner. It's like, no, I'm an athlete that's able to do multiple things. I am, so you didn't, and there's so much of that now where everyone just kind of, they find what they're good at, they pigeonhole and they only focus and they hammer, which I think it is
You're
nice.
Not dynamic.
Yeah, you're not dynamic.
So a 400-meter runner, what are you going to run? You're going to run 400 4x4 every meet? Like when you go 4x1, 1, 2, now you're like out of your comfort zone and you have to really accelerate. You can't wait to the end. If you go 800, it's just like, even my marathoners, I have people who run 2 marathons, 3 marathons a year. And I'm like, we're getting away from the marathon at least one training block, like half the year. Let's do a half.
Go run
Or
the
let's
Broad
do
Street
10K or
10.
5K. Because right, it's called speed reserve, right?
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
if you run 20 minutes for 5K, you cannot run 40 minutes for 10K. You can't double your PR.
Not
But if I
possible.
go run 17 minutes for 10K or 5K, then I can go out in 19 minutes. There's a 2-minute buffer, and then I can PR, right? Then you
Mhm.
PR in the 5K, then you PR in the 10K, and then now I can go out in the first 10K of a half faster. And
You
now I can,
build, you build,
yeah,
you
and then,
build.
and then backwards, like the pain in a 5K is so visceral. When you get in a marathon, it's like a frog in boiling water. You're like, it hurts, but not like that. So it's not just from
And then you get done with it and then you're shot. Where the 5K, once you get done, it hurts and you're better.
yeah,
It's easier
yeah.
recovery. It's
But the
like,
thing is, yeah, it's like to me, when you're coaching a person, there's 3 circles that I kind of touch on, and they overlap a little. It's like a Venn diagram. You have mental state, right? What athletes need to like be motivated,
mhm,
internal motivation, not extrinsic, like inside. What do I enjoy? What do I need? We have like a musculoskeletal load, like pounding joints, tendons, muscles, ligaments, like what the
yep,
pounding is going through the body. And then we have like I call it like physiological or cellular, like what's happening with mitochondria density, um, neurotransmitters, things at a cellular level and different stuff that take a while. And so, like, when we get to triathlon, it's like the interplay of this or strength training. Like, it's like, how do we match up and not confuse the body? And I think
and
too
now
many people
anybody
get too excited about like, oh, I saw this person do this. Well, that does not fit in this system, or it doesn't work on this day because you're retarding the system. So it's just being really clear with what we're trying to do, and understand that there's all these things kind of overlapping on themselves, and you really have to like be able to separate them and then understand how, like, when someone's injured, like we're going on the bike and we're doing a VO2 max work on the bike, we're doing thresh, like pool, whatever it is, like you still have to hit those
Yep.
intensities, right? But it's not happening in a running way. And this is what happens is people get injured and then they go on the bike and they aqua jog, and it's like, no, you got to work. Because
Mhm.
now the gap from you're actually detraining. And now when we go, you're going to be more at risk, like ACL rehab or sprained ankle. Now we're getting more into like putting more training before they go out and make them prepared. So it's just trying to
Yeah.
close gaps, really.
And it's funny because anyone listening to this can understand why you were able to pick up bobsled, skeleton, luge, because it's less about understanding the sport and more about understanding how to coach and understanding like your system of systems
Hmm.
does kind of seem, in a universal way, especially with these more individualistic sport, right? Like you can apply it to the team sports if you break down
Oh,
by position,
yeah, yeah.
right? You got to get very position deep,
Yep,
which events are like that. And
yep,
track, like they're positions, right? Our events are our positions in track and field
yep,
and things like
absolutely.
that.
Yeah.
So you absolutely have that. So I want to talk about your love of the steeple. You talked about everything else you did. You touched on the steeple,
Yeah.
but this is 2 weeks in a row that we've had on really good steeplechase guys.
Yeah.
Obviously, Travis Mahoney's
Yeah.
fantastic.
Yeah.
And you were very good steeple, like I said.
Yeah.
Record holder over at Marist, I think until either Flint or Kimez, Matt Flint or
Kimez,
Kimez. I
no,
think
Flint
Kimez is
didn't
one.
do it. Flint was on the cusp.
He
Kimez
won.
did it.
Yeah, he was close to it at Max. I know Flint won runner of the meet at
Yeah, yeah.
Max that one year.
Yep.
Yeah, but
Yeah, I
Kimez is
ran
the one that got him.
909, and then Kimez, I think, ran 903. And then yeah, it's chopped down. I forget where it's at, but it was like 923 or something like that, or
Yeah, I
915.
know
And I got
Mark.
down to 909.
Mark got it.
Valentino. Yeah.
Yeah, Tino got it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. He ran well. And it's unfortunate when I ran 909, like I was just coming back in the like after a year-long injury.
Hmm.
Like literally my PR was like 15:21 from freshman year on the 5K. And my first race back after being abroad and everything was 16:23. And then the next race I ran 3K and my PR was 8:41, and I ran like 9:30, 9:20. Like I just was not in shape, but I
Yeah.
busted my butt and I just kept chipping away at it. And eventually I ran 909 at Penn. And then the next year I was actually doing volume, like 60, 70-mile weeks, holding 50, being way more consistent. And I was
Yeah.
like a monster. But at the time I was vegetarian and I didn't realize I had low iron, and I would
Hmm.
like basically get threshold or above and I could not breathe. even to the point Mick Byrne was coaching Iona. He's at Wisconsin now. And he came up to me. He's like, Justin, you just lit. I won the previous year in 9:13. I ran, and it was just like one of these things. Like, if I can just breathe, Mick, like, he's like, he got away from you in the first 50 meters and you just couldn't close it. I'm like, I can't. He's a competing coach, but I thought it was like, because the previous year his guys had run 9 flat and I beat them at max running 9:13. I just hung with them. And I basically was like, I'm going to make these guys bleed to beat me. And I think I think it was too much pressure. And
Max were a long time very unique. We've had some new teams coming in,
yeah,
but before kind of Monmouth came in and out, Quinnipiac, things
yeah,
like that. Nothing against those schools; they're great
yeah,
schools, but it was very much a closed circle with
yeah,
your Manhattan, your Ryder,
it's
Iona,
teams.
us,
Yeah.
and we saw each other so often, and
Yeah.
a lot
It
of the
got old.
times. A lot of times they were people we competed against in high school and everything like that. We're all at these other
Yeah.
schools.
Yeah.
So you did develop, even though obviously we didn't like each other on the track, on the
Yeah.
course,
Yeah.
off the track, off the course, we kind of all knew each other.
Yeah.
Like it
Exactly.
wasn't, so it's, while it might seem weird for other people, it's not very surprising when, a rival coach can come up and you strike up a conversation
Yeah,
with
but
them. It
Mick
wasn't
was
more of
like,
that matter.
they won. They were like third at D1 NCAAs.
They were good for
Like,
so
he was a
long and they
great
still are.
coach, and for him to even know who I was, like, I think winning Max my senior year, so this is like going into my 5th year, and it was just like I was student teaching and all this stuff, and I just was like, if I can breathe, and so I think I ran like 9:21, like at
Hmm.
10, and I ran like 9. It was just like I was in the 9:20. I couldn't breathe. I had low iron,
Yeah.
which I found out like years later when it like kept popping up. But yeah, no, I think the steeple is like it brings in like my BMX background, dirt jumping, like visually, like snowboarding, like picking up things, like the hurdle coming up in a pack, not scared,
Yep.
like
Yep.
and my hurdle form was atrocious. We didn't have a track with a steeple pit. We
Nope.
barely practiced it, so I would like hurdle and like literally like I'd pick up my leg, like instead of like hurtling out like this, I would like tuck it under me, and the outside edge of my foot would scrape the top of it. And even like people would come up to Pete and they're like, he needs to like, and my thing is preservation of momentum. So what ends up happening in steeple, and I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but I found for me, it did not work to like, like mark out a distance back from the hurdle and like time up your strides. To me, it was like run as hard as you can possibly in between and then get over the barrier without losing momentum and like, like your rhythm.
Yeah.
What people do is they basically sprint into the hurdle the barrier, and then they like kind of relax in between. And then it's just like, and I was just like, I'm pinning it, progressively
And
picking
that's
up.
kind of a waste of energy, right? That's you're very
It is,
much,
but it's like
it's
people get
rhythmic.
obsessed with having good hurdle technique over the barrier. And if you watch the Kenyans, they look atrocious, but they do not stutter step,
They
right?
kind of only worry about the pit. The Kenyans, like the
Yeah.
only thing is the water pit is what it's important
Yeah,
to
they
them, and
launch over it.
it's knowing when to touch your foot
Yeah.
to it and when not to, right?
Yeah.
They're very good at knowing where they are. And I think Americans are getting there.
Yeah.
Americans are like Kenneth Rooks just attacks the
Yeah.
barriers. Like,
Yeah.
you have guys that just attack the barriers now. And we're starting to see that crossover and that translation against the Kenyans in
Well, in
terms
my
nothing but
era,
not
it was
against, but
Anthony Famighetti, who was a
yes.
Long Island guy, and he
Yes,
was,
yes.
like, tatted up, punk rock. Like, he
Yep.
just had this approach that resonated with me more, that was more, like, kinda F it, like, like,
Just get it done.
I'm not like, I'm a runner, but, like, I'm these other identities as well, and the steeple, I think, attracts these people, like, you can't be a perfectionist in the steeplechase, like, like, you're gonna get humbled
You have to
every
like
time you run
pain.
it, and at certain laps in the track, like a certain barrier, and you just gotta get over yourself and close the gap and whatever. And it's also like, for me, I love physicality, like, like Van Cortlandt Park, Manhattan Invite, 350. I'm getting goosebumps. 350 kids on the line, and you go like 300 meters into like, like basically one lane road. And the first time I ran it, and like people were elbowing and like, and I'm like, oh yes, like because I love the
That was
physicality of
us at
soccer.
Homedale in Jersey.
Oh yeah,
Homedale in Jersey was the
Homedale,
same way
Wickham
because
Park, like they're
you
all
get
like,
funneled right into uphill for 400
oh
meters,
yeah,
and the listen, anyone that doesn't say running's a contact sport has
oh yeah.
never ran in the woods in cross country.
Oh, I was
Ever.
just gonna say I've launched like I
Oh
was
my
never
god.
the initiator, but I was the closer. Like kids elbowing me, and I just be like, like boom into the woods. Like I'm not messing around. Get the F away from me, right?
It was barely a warning. If I knew you, you got a warning. If I knew you, it was like, "Back up."
Yeah, 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 yeah. So but if they're racing, like I don't mind bumping and racing,
No,
but
no,
when
just
it's
don't
like,
push.
they're
Don't be a
elbowing me or
jerk.
pushing me
Yeah,
off the
yeah.
track, like get the heck out of here. Cause I grew up like defend yourself, all this stuff. So
Absolutely.
steeple was this like blend of like kind of like punk rock of events, rock and roll to like, and what happens when a 10K goes off? Who's between a 10K and a steeple? Who's watching the freaking event? Steeplechase. I mean, I ran Raleigh relays where it was lined up. The entire curve was like 8 people deep. It was so loud and screaming. You couldn't even hear anything. And you as a steepler, you try to imagine that they're cheering for you, but they're just want you to scorpion and wreck in the pit.
That's all they're looking for.
That's
It's
all
like
they're looking
NASCAR. It's
for.
watching a NASCAR race. If you're not a fan of NASCAR, you're just looking for the crash. Like,
Yeah.
that's it. Like, if you're a fan, you're watching for the
Yeah.
intricacies. Like, that's like if you're a steepler, you're watching, okay,
Oh
that
yeah, the
guy's running pretty
spinners
well,
coming
good
out, the
form, good
throwers, they're
pit.
like everyone comes out to watch it, and so it was like kind of the premier event and that stuff, other than 4x4,
Yeah.
or the open one, or
The
certain
mile.
things.
People
Yeah,
like the mile. Yeah.
yeah, but the steeple, so it just had this blend of things that like kept me interested, and it was like kind of like a skill to learn. And I'm not very flexible, so it was, yeah, the steeple was like my place. And then the other side of it is like so many guys and gals like, oh, I've run fast 3K and like you ran 909. Like I think I ran 8:35 3K. So it was, what's that? That's 25. So 34-second differential. And they said like, if you're a good steepler, it's like somewhere like 20-second,
Yeah.
15 to 25-second differential. So, if we
You're
had,
right around there.
yeah, not far off. And again, 909 is my best, I'm proud of
909
it.
is not a slouch of a
Yeah.
time either. That's a
But the
good
thing
time.
is 909, like I trained so much harder. Like I really felt like if I didn't have low iron, and it shoulda, coulda, wouldas, but I really felt like I was in 850 shape,
Yeah.
because the regional qualifier. So that year they switched from like to a East-West regional, like the year I ran 909. So the next year it was like I had to run 907 and I could go to super regional,
Yeah.
at Duke or wherever. And then that was my goal. And so I'm like 2 seconds. I ran 1959 for a 4 mile on a road race. I ran
Cruising.
1458 indoor,
Yeah.
835 indoor. Like I ran a lot of good races while student teaching and having a high course load. So I'm like, I'm gonna mess this like steeple up, and I just couldn't breathe.
That sucks.
Yeah. So it's a blend of all this stuff, and just to like so many people talking crap, like, oh, I can run that time. Go ahead. How many guys said they were gonna break my record? Like it was like Pete would call me up, hey, I think this guy's gonna do it. I'm like, we'll see, right?
And and it's
Wow,
one thing, it is nice to
like a
see
badge of honor.
the quality of athlete at Marist that they are now able to. Like, there's been a few guys that have done it, which it's like, yeah, it sucks because my name moved down, but that's the point, right? That's why
Oh
you
no,
set the record, because you want those records to be
I
broken. You
love it.
want
I
the
love
school to
it.
get faster.
I love
And
it. I
knowing
love it
you, like,
because
you're that type of guy. You want the
I
school
wanted,
to
maybe
get
because I'm
better.
a coach, but I wanted to see progress. Like that's
Yeah,
why I
yeah.
went there, was to like push and elevate the program. And I didn't always do the best stuff to do that, right? Like not running volume, not doing the mileage, partying a little bit, not doing great academically or being but I realized like when we got in trouble, it was like Pete had to like deal with it. And I kind of got tired of that. And so by my senior year, I started like in fifth year, I was like, hey, like starting to put my foot down, and it caused some friction with the other captains and stuff. Like they were trying to have fun. And I'm like, we are not. And we had a team meeting, like with just the captains and Pete. And he's like, what's going on? I'm like, look, I'm not, I didn't call the meeting, but like they're planning parties. And like, I've been there and they were calling me a hypocrite. I said, I think a hypocrite, it's called learning. Like I learned
Yeah,
that
yeah.
Pete doesn't deserve this. He's done so much for us. And we're really like behind his back doing these things that are not helpful. And I love those guys that like I was challenging. I won't say the names. And we end up being, great friends. And I think, but like to me, like, yeah, Adam Vess and Flint and Will
Will Griffin,
Griffin and like
Kemes, and
Jimenez
all
and
the
like
great guys,
seeing what they're doing and
Webster, and all
running. And
them.
like,
Yeah, yeah.
like I came a whole back fifth year. So like I can have, the best cross country season. And we had a good team, and it was Germa, uh,
Gurma, Dave
Dave
Rouchy,
Rouchy, and myself. And I got
Alex
off the
Emerald was
plane,
up
and my
there. Yeah.
dad watched them run somewhere, and he's like, "You ain't beating those guys." And I'm like, "Okay, we'll see." and it was regionals. They both, like, I got to 8K, and they went out too hard and they were walking, and I'm like, oh no, guys, come on. So we didn't break the cross country record for the best team, but to see those guys do it, and then Kimez break the record, Valentino break, it was like kind of like the steeple is the one event where, like, when they broke it, like, you call them up and be like, hey, kudos, like,
And
congrats.
here's the thing, you'd be so proud of the team now because you obviously still
Absolutely.
talk to Pete.
Yeah.
I do.
Yeah.
And he has said it's a complete change from
So
when we were
different.
there.
So
It's so
different.
different. They are so much more serious about it.
Yeah.
They understand their talent level, what they can
They're
achieve, what they
still
want to
goofballs.
achieve. What'd you say?
I said they're still goofballs.
Oh, listen, to be a Marist runner, you have to be a grinded out goofball. It's like a thing
Yeah.
there. I hope some of the things that were started are still going on. I won't
Oh,
mention
yeah.
any of them.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But
To see the
it's
guys go to Mount Sac
yeah,
and so,
I
like,
love that.
pre-nats, and I was like, "Pete, we need to get on a damn plane. Like, I need good," like, it wasn't just me. I'm like, "We deserve, like, how are we gonna recruit kids if we're like, we go to Van Cortlandt Park 5 times, we go to the Armory 7 times, like, let's go other places to bring."
See,
And he listened. He really, like, listened to a lot, like, some of us guys, and, like, we went down to NC State for Raleigh relays.
well, the thing is, especially at Marist, and I think it's
Yeah,
shifting now because we're getting a track,
yeah.
but
Oh, it's
I
so
think it
exciting.
was an uphill battle for Pete
Yes.
because it was, if the results weren't there, why are we going to spend that money? Right. And
I just
guys like
think they
you,
really
guys
deserve
like Quinn, guys like Bamberger, like you guys had some really good,
it. Yeah.
fast guys that were breaking records and doing
Ryan
things where
DeMarco.
DeMarco, like it justified Pete going, I need to take this group to some of the best in the nation because they can compete. And back then, too, we had a full conglomerate of a team because
Yeah,
even though that gym floor wasn't amazing,
yeah,
it had a pole vault spot where they could put it down. It had, they could throw on there so our throwers can get some work in. And so we were able to have a full team, and there was a little while
yeah,
until now where like a full team was tough to have because
yeah,
that got taken away.
absolutely. Yeah,
But you guys working your tails off, and I came in, I think right after you finished your 5th year. I got in there at '07. So
yeah, that was, so you were right after me. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, it
yeah.
was like
And you
Sean
guys paved the
Hopkins.
way. You
Yeah,
guys
Sean
paved the way
Hopkins.
for everything that's going on.
Yeah, Sean Hopkins, Jeff Decker,
Yeah, so many good people.
Steve Hicks, like, these guys that, like, they like, grinded things out. They, like, did stuff. They, like, would, rag on me, Prince and the mile and the 8, like, there's a lot of guys, and I can't name them all, but it's like any place. Like, when you look back at your team, like, currently, it's like, how do we all contribute to,
Yeah.
like, show up and step up? Like, to me, it's like 4x4. Like, how many times people, like, the 100 kid is hiding.
I didn't do much. I sucked.
Yeah,
So
but the 100 kid is like, the fast kid is, like, hiding, because they don't want to find coach to get thrown in the 4x4. And I'm like, college, if you're a high school kid, college coaches want to see range.
mhm.
They want to see a teammate. They want to see leadership. They want to see that you're willing not to, like, the cliche is throw your body on the line. I think you have to be careful with that. Like, sometimes, like,
And
kids
as a
in high
coach, you
school
need
are
to be
racing
smart,
too much.
right? As a
Yeah,
coach, you have to be smart. If this is a 100-meter kid that barely has ever run a 4 and he's probably going to hurt himself, don't put him in there.
yeah,
Don't give
yeah,
him in that situation. But if
yeah,
this is a 1-2 kid that, like you said, has
yeah,
trained up with those 400
yeah,
guys and has that range,
yeah.
okay,
Yeah, but
put
it's
him in
about
there.
being a complete team. And like I said, in high school,
100%.
we had 13 guys,
That's
and it was like, okay, we need to, like, I'm more of a 2 miler and you're more of a
mhm.
1K guy. And, like, we would show up and do our job, and we would compete with teams that were double our size, and
Yeah,
the sprinters would do the same thing. So it's in anything. It's like, whether it's your job or whatever, it's like, how are you, finding a way to contribute? To me, that's like where fulfillment comes in. It's like, I'm doing
100%.
something to leave a legacy. And that was something that was really important to me, because I was seeing some of the upperclassmen when I was an underclassman. They would get to senior year, and it's like, okay, now, like, they would see the end and be like, okay, now I want to do everything right. And then they were battling partying, dating people, trying to finish your college degree, what your parents want you to do, get a job, then
Yep.
running. And, like, I saw so many.
Reality's starting to hit.
Yeah, I saw so many people be inconsistent, and realize, like, so that was like my senior year. Before my 5th year was like, I got to lay it down now and chip away at it so I can do it my 5th year. And my 5th year, my last race of every season was a PR.
That's always what you want to hear and how you
Yeah,
want to finish, right? And one of the things I told the kids while I was at Marist, and I think it rang true. I said, "Hey, listen up. You guys are D1 runners, right?
yeah,
If your goal isn't to be a national champion, then go home.
mm,
Because yeah, as realistic as it may be,
mm,
you don't have to face that. Train that way. You're Division One.
Yeah.
Be Division One. Like, don't come in there and just think, oh well, it's Marist. Like, no, it's a Division One school.
Yeah.
Train, and your goal should look at that national champ and go, I want to be there. And we are starting to get there. Like, we have become 400U. Whoever thought that we would be a school that's producing consistent 2 to 3 guys, 48, 47. Like, we had the record holder at the IC4As and Max is a Marist runner, and for 100 and 200. So it's like,
it's cool to see.
It is very cool to see. So I'm pumped, but you deserve a lot of credit for your group specifically. I think you guys paved the way to attract some of the bigger runners, because like I was a part, like I didn't do much, but I was a part of what's considered like kind of like the golden age of distance. We were just second Iona every year, and Iona being second in the nation, third in the nation.
At that time, we were like fourth, fifth. Like Canisius would sneak in, Siena would sneak in sometimes. Manhattan was
we were the mainstay too for at least 5-6 years with, like we said, like Gurma, Rauchi, Tim Keegan was fantastic when he was there. Webster, Zach Smetana, like a lot of these individuals that wouldn't have even thought about coming to the school unless you guys did your part. So I do want to give your group a boatload of credit.
There was a bunch of people, but appreciate
100%,
it.
100%. So I want to jump in, and before we get out of here, we got to touch on your Olympic, I guess, experience. Like, obviously you didn't go, but
I didn't go, but
it's so cool. So you have experience with the bobsled, skeleton, luge. Talk about what the hell that was all about, because it was over a good period of time too that you worked with these athletes.
Yeah. So essentially it was like, I'm a lifelong learner. So it's just like trying to figure this out. And like, I'm coaching sprinter, jumper, hurdlers and stuff. And it's like, again, like I can't treat them like distance runners, but there's some similarities. And I remember my dad's girlfriend, who's been in my life since I was 10, was like, hey, there's this job at this college, like you should apply for it. I'm like, I don't coach sprinters. And she's like, they're runners, aren't they? And she was like, I think she's like, Justin, I've gotten a lot of jobs I didn't think I was qualified for. You'd be surprised. And so I talked to my friend, a guy I knew, it was more of an acquaintance, barely a friend.
Yeah.
And he's like one of my best friends now. And he was like, you're not what I'm looking for. So it's something I've heard a lot, you're not what I'm looking for. We're looking for something else. And I ended up getting the job because it was $10,000 a year with no benefits and everything. And I'm like, who the hell is going to move there for that? Right. I saw this as a trajectory, is I want to be a head coach and I want to understand all the events. So to understand them all, I want to coach them. Right. So I'm doing education. I did jump certification, with USATF, and with Boosh Schnecksnyder, which was amazing. And Todd Lane, like OGs at LSU, like amazing to learn from them. And like, I look back at my training, my first semester, I came in mid-year. I was looking at my training and it was like 9 hard days at 11, and I was wondering why the kids were sick. I'm like, I don't know what's going on, because I was sent in the weight room and it would be a recovery day and they would get slammed in the weight room.
Yeah.
So it was like sprint workout, next day lift, and it was just like too much intensity.
There was no break.
So long story short, I'm going to conventions and stuff. And I'm like, eventually it's like, you ask a question and they're like, well, it depends. And I'm like, okay, I'm tired of this answer. I want to, like, give me a case study, N=1. And they're the conventions and stuff like that. And it was kind of the old boys club, like in a sense, like people knew their friends and I was like there to learn. And it was just like, after 2 years of it, I was like, I'm going to different conventions. And there was this guy, Brad DeWeese. He ended up being the high performance director for the Jets a couple years ago. I think last year. I don't know if he's still there, but he spoke and he worked with, like, he got Lolo Jones. They got Lolo Jones, and so he was working with them, and he was like describing like an elite level hurdler, and it was her.
Mm-hmm.
And he was talking about training, and a lot of the ideas were like things that like I was kind of gravitating to. Not that I was like, it just not unique thoughts, but it was like, oh, okay, it was validating.
Yep.
And so I saw him, and I basically never heard of the guy. I'm like, Lake Placid is not that far. So I looked him up online and I found his PhD dissertation, which was 140 pages, and I read it and the whole entire thing. And it was on developing coaches. So I wrote him an email saying, hey, you're trying to develop Olympic coaches. This was your dissertation. I want to just come and watch, be a fly in the wall, move weights around, make peanut butter jelly sandwiches, move cones.
Basically be an intern.
Whatever it takes for free. Like, I'm available. Like, let's make this happen, because I want to grow as a coach. And I got no response for a couple months. And then finally it was like June. And I was like, you know what? Because it was in January, the thing. I think I emailed him in February, and it was like months. And so finally he responds. I'm like, let me just send one more email. And he's like, I'm leaving. The assistant needs someone in here. I basically had a heartbeat. That's how I got in. I've been coaching sprinters for 1.5 years. And this guy was more of a lifting coach. Like, he was
Yeah.
very good. He knew sprints, at that time, decent, but he needed support because he had to be in the weight room, and the track is just outside. And so I can go on forever with it, but essentially is I had a heartbeat, and this was 2013, and that winter, 2014, was the Sochi Russia games.
Yep.
So I kind of was like hearing some stuff and watching and seeing athletes, and then I watch them on TV. And so this guy needed more support every summer, and it just worked out that, like, at first I was like a temp, like I wasn't paid by the USOC, but I would work the summers and help them with their pushing and sprinting. And now I'm not writing the training plans, but I'm like watching them, trying to help them in whatever way. And I ended up doing my master's in the skeleton push start. So like in track, like everyone sets up their blocks roughly the same,
Yep.
but in skeleton, like their feet were like, some had a big gap, some had a little gap, some had both feet on the starting block, and like some would be big and then come in and dynamically push. And I was like, this does not make sense. So I was thinking of doing my master's in track and field, but I'm like, there's thousands of publications. And I did a lit review, and it was like 9 publications, and only one looked at 2 different start styles. And so I basically did my master's research as I like coached up there. And eventually I got paid, like hired by the USOC to help them into the Korea game. So I worked the
Wow.
summers, I worked some Olympic, like World Cup. So I worked in Germany, they flew me over. And then I worked the Olympic test event the year before the Korean games in Pyeongchang, built a brand new track. So I got to go over there. I was
That's
part
so
of this.
cool.
I got to watch and be there when they were like figuring out like the selection, which happens in like, it's the first level is like in July.
Mhm.
And then I went in March and was able to like be out there for 3 weeks to help them figure out the track. And essentially, like early on, they were like, my first year there, they were like, there's Olympic gold medalists, multiple Olympians, Olympic hopefuls, and here I am, the scrawny distance runner, and these guys are lifting so much weight. They're like linebackers. I'm not even kidding. Like, they're massive dudes and gals. Like, they are very strong. And so I was really intimidated. I would like work a morning session, and I would go to my room and like pass out because I was exhausted, because I was so nervous. And then I would go in the weight room, which was not my specialty, but I learned a lot, and I just try to learn as much as I can. But I coach the people like, hey, show me, here's the video, show me what you're looking at. How do I help you? And I
Yeah.
get them to coach me on it. Some guys were like, hey, I'm not going to help you because that's my teammate, but I have to compete against that guy to go to the Olympics. And he was a gold medalist. His name was also Justin. And I said, look, dude, you don't have to tell me anything. And he was an Olympic medalist. He won our first gold in a long time as a pusher, and now he's a driver. So it was just like learning these things. And like I was there 8 weeks. How I earned my street cred with them, because everyone's like, he doesn't coach at LSU. He's not like a big time program. And they were like, but the guy who I first worked with was like, he's a proficient coach. Like,
Yeah.
and no one wants to come up here, and you guys are paying people big bucks. Like, just, he gets the job done. I ended up building a good relationship, but how I earned my stripes with the athletes, wiffle ball. It was a rainy day, and they were like, one guy played at UNC, one guy played at Oklahoma State baseball, and I had 2 pitches, a riser curveball, and I struck them all out, and they started listening to me for that. And the Olympic medalist, the gold medalist, Justin Olson, like after that, he started talking to me, and I waited the 7th week. I was like, hey, in the video, I've noticed that your hip does this thing. Is it really tight? He's like, how'd you know that? So I just like try to really observe and take time. And I talked to him about it. And he was like, dude, so many coaches have come in here and they try to make an impact right away, and they just muddy the waters. They're trying to show that they know something. But like, I really appreciate what you've done. And I had that guy's trust, and the rest of the guys, the entire like 4 year. It was a great run. And I didn't get to go to the Olympics, which was a little bit of a bummer, but just being a part of that, and like doing research, and like using Excel, it was really a cool experience. It gave me a ton of confidence. It was stressful at times because I didn't want to tell people just something to make them feel like I had a purpose. Lolo Jones was like, I worked with her just a little bit, and, we had some tension because she was like, she's worked with the high performance, like Red Bull high performance team to shave off hundreds of seconds for the Beijing games when she was
Yep.
the gold medal favorite. And here I am, the only person in the world doing the research I'm doing and doing the work. And I worked more with the men. The women didn't have to be at the training center because I think they were better and they won silver and bronze. So like they could do what they want a little bit. But long story short is like, I just remember like having some tension with her at like 10 o'clock at night in Germany and just be like,
Looking back at it now, how freaking cool is that? You could say I had tension with Lolo Jones. Like I don't care. Like just and sentence me with Lolo Jones. It like
I mean, she's
whatever
a
is
high
happening.
performer. She's a high performer, and she's
She's
like,
so
"Timmy,
talented.
tell me the truth." And for me to tell the truth, I had to kind of throw the coach under the bus. And I told him, I said, "She's going to ask me, and I don't think she has the right technique based on what I see. Like it's," and I'm like, "You're telling her this, but I disagree with you." And he's like, "I don't care. Like this is about winning medals. This is not about egos. Like tell her whatever you think is right."
Which is
That,
great because that takes a really great coach to sit there and say, and I get it, his job, and he'll still
scary.
get the credit, right? If she
Oh yeah.
wins, he gets the credit as her coach. So in
Oh
the
yeah.
end, he doesn't give a crap. But at the same time, it does take a very big coach because you've met it. You've met a lot of the coaches. They have a lot of success. They're great and they're incredibly rigid. No, you don't. My athletes know what they're supposed to do, and that's just what they're
Yeah.
doing, period.
Yeah, he was great with that, and I was like, I didn't want to step on his toes. Like, I would look like an idiot to not make him look like an idiot, but he's like,
Yeah.
I don't care. We're trying to win medals. Like, tell her
Yep.
whatever you think. And there was some friction, and she was on me about stuff, and I'm like, I only have one data point. I don't know if this is I need multiple data points. The other women, he's like, you talk to these athletes for hours, and I was like, I have multiple data points, so I can see a trend. I can see some things, but like,
Yep.
this is not the Red Bull high performance team. It's just me. Like, and I'm not going to sit here and tell you something unless I think it, but video wise, watch this. And I sat down with her. She was super receptive. And she was like, you know what? You remind me a lot of Dennis Shaver, which I thought was like, I was like, I'm nothing like that. Like that's
That's a
really,
pretty incredible compliment.
but she was like, you didn't try. A lot of people try to interject. Right.
Yeah.
And I appreciate it. And she changed her technique and she still uses it today. She's trying to make the team because
That's so
Cortina's,
cool.
so the Winter Olympics are this February, right?
Yeah.
They're 2026. And so, I don't have a relationship with her. It was just like that, those couple interactions. But, some people like can be like, oh, like there's friction, but it's like, what is the goal? The mission statement of any national governing body is to win Olympic medals. This is like war. Like
And on
you're there
top of
to
that,
win.
friction isn't a bad thing in
No.
sport and in life and business and everything. Like if you're just everyone's going, yeah, this is great, that's cool, that's perfect, you're gonna fail at everything
Oh
you
yeah,
do,
yeah, yeah.
right?
You can't be
So
nice with it. But I
and
am a
with these elite
peacekeeper.
athletes too, you sometimes have to have the friction with these elite athletes
Yeah,
because they're doing everything so well their
yeah,
whole lives and they've just been good.
yeah.
Lolo Jones was one of the greatest hurdlers in the world for a long time. And
She's
to come
very
in,
coachable. Like, that's the
that's
thing. It's like the
fantastic.
best athletes are very coachable. Like,
Yes.
some athletes don't understand it. I'm not talking about her. There's one athlete I'm thinking about, phenomenally played for Michigan running back, uh, Raiders, phenomenal athlete in gymnastics growing up. Like, if I asked him, like, hey, what did that feel like? It made no sense. Like, he couldn't articulate it. He just embodied it. But I said, hey, get your hips into the sled. And it was like, done. Next rep,
He's
how was that? I'm
coachable, he
like,
knows what to do.
perfect. It was just
Yeah.
like, to me, movement is an intelligence, right? It's
Yes,
not just
100%.
like, like, and this guy has a highlight reel. If you look up Sam McGuffey highlight reel, he is hurdling people. It went like
I know the name.
Barstool. It was, you know,
I've heard the Sam McGuffey,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. He's a legend, and he's the
Fantastic
funniest guy,
athlete.
easygoing, but he was a phenomenal athlete. But the thing is just to like coach the people, and by doing that over the years, I'm super proud of it, to like gain people's trust, to where like like one athlete was like calling me like 1 week out from the games, like just checking in with me, and it was like really cool to be like on the outside, but kind of on the inside a little bit. I never was hired by them. I didn't like get to go to the Olympics. Like, I was more of like a resource, but it was an amazing thing. And then I did stuff with USA Luge. I was their COVID coordinator going into the Beijing games. I didn't go to Beijing, but I did some data analysis stuff for them that was useful. And so it's just trying to find a way to make an impact. And to
Yeah.
me, like, I got up to the Olympic level, and for me, I realized like, maybe it's that like striving to like this ultimate job. And to me, I realized like I'd be away from home for 6
Yeah.
months to 8 months.
Yeah.
Like, I want a family. Like, I wouldn't survive, like it would be too much for me to be away
Mentally, it would
from my
crush
wife,
you.
and it's
Yeah.
like the pressure is like, if you don't perform, then you're out. And I'm building my whole career on like, I'm gone. What do I do? So it was just like, and there's some politics to it. And I just realized like, for me, like that experience like validated a lot and gave me that experience. But to me, it was like, it's not about stepping down from there. It's like, again, I want to interact with any person I interact with. I want to be able to facilitate their success, because like my mission statement is to develop characteristics necessary for athletic and lifelong success, and for people to have fulfilling journeys, right? And so I had a lady go 8.5 hours in New York City Marathon walk jogger, and I'm more proud of that than some of my
She
people.
completed it, right?
Man, that was so
That's it.
helping people overcome challenges is what it's about. For
Amazing.
me, it's like, the great philosopher Ice Cube once say, life's not a track meet, it's a marathon. So it's like, sport is the medium for me to like help people express themselves and overcome anxiety or depression or
Yeah, yeah.
overachieving or being too hard on themselves or whatever it is. Like, it's just trying to get people to feel comfortable in their own skin and move through this world. And I think sport is a beautiful way to do it. And there's nothing better than track and field and running, because it's beautiful and brutal at the same time. You
So
can't hide from the clock.
no, you absolutely can't. So Darren Peters jumping in and saying this is similar to the story of Altus, the Phoenix Elite
Oh, yes.
Performance Camp.
Yep.
So yeah, there that
Yeah,
is. So,
I did an apprenticeship there, like their second year when it was
that's
in
so cool.
Phoenix. So I got to observe Stu, and Stu is a phenomenal bobsled coach, and Dan Paff, and Andreas Bain, I think his name. He coached Aries Merritt. He was. I mean, they were
Very smart. Yeah.
super.
God.
I was there for a week. It was like transformative for me. And those guys are fantastic coaches and great resources. For sure. What they're doing with Altus, what Stu's doing with that, is like the resources, the education, the certifications. It's a great resource. So, yeah.
So I love touching on that. I love that that's like,
Yeah.
just coaching in general, right? Like it got away from track, but I friggin' love that. And one of the things that I took away from it, and I think if you're a young coach or an athlete or anybody listening to that, and grind. Always grind, because that's what you did, right? You sat there and you were like, I'm willing to work unpaid. I'm willing to learn something new and learn something innovative, different, and also to be confident in what you know, right? So it's like
Yeah.
putting in that time and grinding where we are so instant gratification now. Everybody wants to look down at their Strava and just see that they ran a PR. Everyone wants to get it now, where people don't realize that you have to work your ass off. And even if you've gotten here, when you want to get to the next level, you don't start here again.
Yeah.
You start off back down here.
Yeah.
You're back down to grind. Like every time you achieve a level, it's not like a video game where you take everything from that level with you and you keep going. You're back at the bottom. So while you went from that, you went from being a national champion in high school, okay, back to college. Good steeplechaser. Okay, now I'm a triathlete. Okay, I'm a pro triathlete. Now I'm trying to coach. And it's like you're always starting back down. But I think one of the things you talk about, your competitiveness, your stubbornness, but also you're willing to grind. And I think it can be taught, but it's also an innate trait. Some people have that ability to sit there, start back at zero and build themselves up without letting discouragingness like take them over, right?
But that's
Where other
sport.
people, it's
That's
hard.
sport. You don't
That
win.
is sport.
You don't win all the time. And I think
Yeah.
that's the difference between a student athlete and someone who's not. I mean, theater's cutthroat, drama's cutthroat,
Music, all
music.
that. Yeah.
Like it's not just sport, but I
But
feel
it's
like,
like
how much
it's
do
the
we
word
realize?
sport, right? Like the verb of sport, not
Yeah.
the actual thing, but like the verb of like
Yeah.
that's what you're talking about. Yeah.
Like, you don't have to be elite. Like, there's things that I do that I stink at. Like, I suck at, but I do it because I enjoy it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's like hard for someone who hates to lose.
Mhm.
Like, oh, I suck at this thing. For me, it was coding, like learning how to code and program. But I'm gonna like, I think I'll say this one quote. I heard it today, and it kind of really resonated with me, and hopefully, maybe it'll resonate with one person. But it's from a Buddhist monk, and one of my athletes shared with us, because we're talking about it, and she says the quote is, "Sudden is the result of a lot of gradual."
Yeah.
Right?
I like
We
that.
think it's like overnight success, but it's like grinding out. So for me, it was a journey. Like, all my coaching early on, I got paid $1,500 the first year of coaching, then 55, and then 65, and it was like 10, and it was like nothing. And my parents are like, "What are you doing? You left teaching, like making 40, 50K a year, and plus you left the stability." And I'm like, this is, for me, all the work that I'm doing now is going to pay off dividends later. I'm going to make sure I keep good relationships, not end like coaching athletes and be like demonstrative and
The
make them feel
networking.
bad and like wield my power over them. Like, let's just like build. And to me, it's an ultimate compliment to have an athlete I coached in college who's now 31 and like doing marathons and be like, hey, coach, like, I know this is what you do. Like, let's go for it. So to me, that's what it's about. And I think for anyone listening, if I can part anything, it's just keep chipping away at it. Um, I'll challenge you a little bit. I don't love the grind like mentality, like the too much, because I think it's really inspiring, but it ends up like I see so many people on the back end, lawyers, doctors, CEOs, stuff like that, like now adults, like where it gets them in a little bit of trouble. Like, they don't enjoy what they're doing because they're like trying to grind to the next thing and they're like missing. It's
Has
almost
a
like click,
negative
keep fast
connotation.
forwarding like
Yeah,
to
yeah,
the
yeah.
good stuff. And I'm just challenging you in a friendly way. I know I certainly understand what you're saying, but it's like find joy. Like there's meaning in suffering, right? Like find joy in what you're doing and don't just like it. Like if I had the choice between a kid who likes to win and a kid that hates to lose, I'm taking the kid that hates to lose every time, because the kid who likes to win does really good in high school, small fish in a big pond, and then they get to college and then they're getting their butts whooped and then they quit, or they don't, it takes them a long time to figure it out.
So it's full circle back to the beginning where you were talking about achievement versus
Yeah.
fulfillment, right? And it comes right back to that. And I equate it to something I always say. It's like, don't chase happiness, be satisfied, find satisfaction.
Yeah.
Same exact thing. Achievement,
Yeah.
fulfillment, happiness,
Yeah.
satisfaction. Because
Yeah.
if you're always chasing that achievement, your highs are going to be high, your lows are going to be really low. But if you're just trying to be fulfilled, you'll always be here, and your high will only go there, your low will only go there,
Yeah.
but you'll always
Be
have a
consistent.
baseline. Yeah.
Consistent cuts through the bullshit.
Yeah. Yes. 100%. 100%. So, Justin, this has been a ton of fun. You are someone that has a boatload of wisdom, and anyone that, has the ability to be coached by you, I think is going to do well. And it's awesome just being able to talk to a fellow Red Fox. Like, it's always good um, talking about things. So I'm going to bring it up right here. Anybody, please go on to jharriscoaching.fit, and you can go on right there and get in touch with John, because he's someone that you're going to want to be coached by. If you liked what you heard here, if you just like the analytical mind, the combination of analytics and execution, but also being encouraging and things like that, I think we just heard someone that is incredibly passionate, but not just passionate, but good at what he does. So honestly, this has been a ton of fun, man.
I appreciate you. If you guys want to, get in touch with me, you can get there. That Try It thing is a newsletter I send out twice a month. I'm consistent with it. It's the art of training. So I get into running, cycling examples, but it goes for everything. It's multimodal, like inspiration, stuff like that. And it's just a way for me to get my words. It's a 5-minute read, keeps it simple. So Alex, I appreciate you guys doing this. I've been seeing it through the years of what you're doing here. And I think it's excellent just to have a lot of different perspectives, because it's not a singular voice that leads. You don't know who's going to say something that really motivates someone. So 153 episodes, that's a lot, buddy. So
Yeah,
keep
we've
it
had
up.
fun.
Keep it going.
We got to hook you up with have you talked to Mike Cunningham yet?
No.
Of Gill Athletics.
Oh,
He
no.
just interviews coaches, and
Oh, yeah.
like his whole thing. If you go on X, it's
Yeah.
I heart coaches. Like, he is all about it. It's the
Yeah.
Gill Coach. It's a Gill Connections podcast. He came on here. We jumped on there and did a quick episode. But
Yeah. Yeah.
you and Mike would love each other. He would
Oh, cool.
absolutely adore you and your analytical
Yeah, I
mind.
love talking to different people for sure. So yeah,
We
maybe.
got to hook that up. We got to hook that up. But once again, he's
Appreciate
Justin
it.
Harris. He's obviously good coach, great coach. He was a fun runner. You go find him at J Harris Coaching on Instagram. And like we said, go to his website. And if you know anybody that needs to be coached, absolutely go over there. If you want to find us, go to Talking in Ovals everywhere. We're on all social medias that way. And wherever you watched from, thank you. We appreciate it. Darren, we appreciate you jumping on here and leaving a comment there. Darren, your day on the show is coming, because you're always here. You are absolutely going to be coming on the show. So we will be DMing soon. But we appreciate everyone out there. I think Hyatt will be back next week, so we'll be able to have him on. I have no idea who we're having on next week. We have someone, but we'll figure